I'm going to start with a couple of quotes from, of all people, Mr. Rogers. Oh, he said, "The thing I remember best about successful people I've met all through the years is their obvious delight in what they're doing." Do you feel that delight?
Oh,
Even after all these years, Marcia.
yeah.
And it seems to have very little, and it seems to have very little to do with worldly success. Okay, drink that in. They just love what they're doing and they love it in front of others. I thought that was the best quote. It would give me a warm fuzzy, but that's basically saying they just love what they're doing and they love it in front of others. And I have said that to people for years, the obvious question I get, and Marsha probably does too, because we're the oldies here, is, are you ever going to retire? Right? And I said, why?
I do that.
Like in my head I'm 39, as long as I can get around, I'm fine. Like I went to a concert at the Lancaster Music Theater. I forget what it's called now, but anyway, the music theater. And it was a group from when I was in Highton College, thereafter, and so forth, And they're still around. They're all still living. But they wheeled the piano player, the keyboard player, in on his wheelchair. And that's when it hit me, And then I looked around at the American Music Theater, and up against the walls was walkers and wheelchairs folded up and all that stuff. But I got to tell you that almost everyone to the T, unless they absolutely couldn't stand up, when it came to the last couple of numbers and everybody knew it was the end, everybody was on their feet. I was in the mezzanine, so I could see over. And there was maybe 5 people that were still sitting, and that was just because they couldn't. So it's the love of what, thank you, Kathy, it's the love of what we do, what we see, that really, I think, impacts us. And so you guys have it all over, the 55 and overs, because you've got the energy to go with it. When I was in Ireland with my family for a couple of weeks for my son's wedding, we walked at least 20 miles in 3 days.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to show them that I really was going to struggle. So I got my good sneakers, my Skechers sneakers, and I usually, when my mother was living, and she lived with us, and we went any place, I would always kind of hang back to walk with her. It's just my mindset. My 5 kids and my 12 grandkids, they're out, boom, and I'm always at the end. And when I catch up with them at the red light, and I'd be so proud of myself, and then boom, they would go again. But I made it. I went on every tour. I walked the streets. It was chilly there. It's summertime there, but it's usually 55, 60 degrees, and it was a little
That is chilly.
cloudy. So, yeah, so anyway, that's one of his quotes. The other one is, if you could only sense how important you are to the lives you meet, how important you can be to the people you may never even dream of. So that's the whole thing about listing, is we need to have the sellers feel that we're important to them. We're not just somebody that's coming in, making a quick commission because the house sells in 2 or 3 or 4 days. We're important to them from the beginning, the middle, and the end, and thereafter. I had an agent, I had a little problem after settlement about a week later, and I called the agent. She didn't call me back for like 3 phone calls. Finally, she called and she said, my broker said that, since we've settled, I don't represent that seller anymore. So I'm not going to do anything. And it's true. It's true. Once you walk away from the settlement table, when you're the listing agent, you do not represent that seller anymore. But I have never, in 30 years, not followed through. But that agent was told by her broker that she shouldn't follow through. And the last one is, the greatest gift you ever give is your honest self. And so one of the things that we need to do is, when we walk in that first or second appointment, and all the way through, is to be honest, to be your honest self. They may not like it. I just spent the whole time coming here on a call because my sellers don't understand. This time of the year is very strange with the taxes and how they come back to the seller. And if it's 3 months from now, usually if it's not recorded yet, then the title company takes all the taxes, and then the buyer reimburses the seller back and all that stuff. But the title company can see that the bank paid the taxes, so they're not charging the seller the majority of the taxes. They're only paying from July 1, I'm sorry, yeah, July 1 to tomorrow is settlement day. So they should be dancing the dance of joy, but they're really upset that they have to wait to get reimbursed from the school district of Ridley. And, rightly so, because it's probably going to take them 2 or 3 months to get that money back. I can't help it, but I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, it's one of those you can't fight City Hall things. In this case, it's you can't fight the school district. It is what it is. It's how they do it. It's this time of the year, and they haven't sold a house in like 25 years, and they really didn't get it. So, all right. So what we're going to do today is to just, I'm going to head a little bit on some of the important stuff that I mentioned before, just as a for anybody. Was everybody here that last time? Okay. So it's not going to fall on deaf ears, but I'm always big about reading the stuff that comes in on Par Just Listed and anything else that you subscribe to. I think I might have told you that I'm up at usually 6:30, 6:45 every morning, and I take that hour and a half or so before I get my shower and all to digest all the emails that come to me from all the sources that I've accrued over the years. Some of them are on the paper that I gave you today, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on them. But my job is to get every morning to find out. It's kind of like when people used to get up early and have their coffee and read the New York Times because they wanted to know what was going on, or the Bulletin or the Inquirer. Those are words we don't know now. But that's the kind of thing that I have. I've got all this information coming to me. I pick and choose what I think is important to me for the day. And then as I go through my day, I'm telling people, you in a class, buyers, sellers, mortgage people, it makes great fodder for conversation when you're at a settlement, because there's those dead zones sometimes when you're waiting for the papers to be ready, and everybody's kind of sitting there. And not everybody knows everybody. You know your clients, the other agent knows theirs. But sometimes you're sitting there, sometimes there's a delay waiting for mortgage papers and things like that. So if you know some little tidbits every morning, and when you look through your emails and go to the Par Just Listed, which comes out periodically, go to every day actually, and go to some of the other things that come to you, you'll have plenty of stuff to talk about. And it's real estate related, or maybe it's not real estate related. Maybe you'll come up with a couple of other things. So, but in today's I belong to something called Keeping Current Matters. Does anybody else subscribe to that?
Yes.
Yes? Anybody else? All right, you guys got to get on there. Keeping Current Matters. It's fairly cheap, and they come out with things sometimes twice a day. But this one just came out yesterday, I think. 15th, yeah. And this one says the U.S. home ownership rate is growing. And it says, the U.S. Census says that the data shows that more than half of the U.S. population live in a home they own. That's good news for us, And the percentage is growing with time. So this is a thing to email out to buyers, because it says if you're thinking about buying a home, here's a few reasons why so many people see the value in home ownership. We're here to talk about sellers today, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood that there's a plethora of things, and all you have to do is just subscribe. Some of them are free, some of them cost a little bit, some is a monthly thing, but worth every penny, because the monthly things are not even all that expensive. Okay. So it's more about, I think when you're a listing agent, it's more about the client's understanding our worth. Right? That's the main thing, because if they haven't sold a house in a long time, it's very different from when they sold before. They'll always tell me, oh my gosh, the piece of paper was in pencil and it was one page and we all signed it, and if we made a mistake, she erased it and put another number down. It's hard for us to comprehend that, but that's the way it used to be. So it's about honest conversation with the seller. So the first time around, I think I told you that I do a 2-part listing. You don't have to do that, don't need to do that, but my job is important, and I feel that I can't sit down with people that I barely know. I really feel like I need that time to talk with them a little bit ahead of time. I feel that I need to know what's important to them, so when I come back, I'm armed for it. Nothing worse than doing a CMA and coming for the first time, and then as you drive down the street, you see a house that just went on the market that morning and you didn't see it, and they ask you about that, and you have to look it up, right? So I like to know what's going on in the neighborhood, and I like to be completely prepared. So, I have that chance in the beginning to have that honest conversation. So by the time I come back, hopefully I'm pre-sold because I've given them enough information, right? So it's kind of a fast-paced world today, and all the answers are just a Google search away, right? My husband hates that, So I wonder how old so-and-so is, or how much Diana Ross is like all over the world at 80 years old singing at concerts right now. And my husband just thinks she's the best, ever from that era. And he said, I wonder what her net worth is. And he goes, don't pick up the phone and find out. I don't need to know it that badly, but that's the first inclination I have, whether we're at the restaurant table or sitting, watching a TV or whatever. And it's just a knee-jerk reaction, if I don't know it. And I've gone to bed not sleeping many times in my lifetime trying to figure out a name or something like that, right? So what we want to do is make the information as simple as possible, because the more information, if we bombard them with lots and lots and lots of information, then they just get more and more confused. So we have to give it to them in little sprinkles all the way down the line. The sellers today, I feel, think that it's just a quick sale and then they don't realize what goes into it. So one of the things that you take away from today, I want you to sit down and make a diary of sorts. Just take 15 minutes, 5 days this week, and write down what you do from the time you walk in there the first time until the time you walk away from closing, and then some, because the follow-up is important. And type it up, and give that to them as part of your listing presentation. Here's what I do. And if you're brand new and you're just starting out, have a one-to-one with somebody in here, and somebody that you trust that would give you some of their time, and say, all right, so what do you do? What are the things that you do? That might even help them, because they go, well, man, I haven't even done that, so let's do it together. But ask anybody, and you'll see that there's a lot to be done, and we have to justify, unfortunately, that commission, especially now when the house is selling hours or days or whatever, right? So you are their essential guide. You're the one that's going to navigate them through all the way. And if they trust you from the get-go, it's an easy-peasy transaction. If you waver a little bit or whatever, that doesn't mean that you can't say, you know what, I don't know that answer, but I'll get it for you for the end of the day. You're okay with that. If you don't get back to them, that's where the problem is, because they won't trust you as much as after that. Finding the right agent for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and your family should be your top priority. And so just putting that in their mind, that sentence, I have to write stuff down when I'm talking to you because I get on tangents, but that's one of the things I say when I sit down with them at that first interview. Miss Joe and Sally, finding the right agent for you and your family should be your top priority. That's why I'm here, right? And that sets the tone. I'm an advisor. You can steal this if you want, but I'm a good Catholic girl, and I grew up with the nuns, and it was always about, they wanted us to think about our vocation, whether we wanted to be nuns or not. But I like that word, Instead of a real estate agent, sometimes people call themselves real estate advisors or real estate consultants. All of those names sound a little more professional, I think. But if I tell them that this real estate business has been my vocation for 30 years. Wow, that's a really hard stop word for them to go, wow, she's devoted because it's her vocation. And I feel that way, and I like to tell them about that. I tell them that my finger's on the pulse, and having all those places to get information from is one of those things. But it all starts with that trust. And as I mentioned last time, I think, that we all have advisors that we trust. Hopefully we trust our tax accountant. We trust our doctors. We trust our dentist, that he's not going to kill us. It's the only way I go. I'm not sure that we can trust our car dealer, but no offense to anybody here. But we trust, we all like to go to the Acme, the Giant, the Whole Foods, where we go. We trust them. People tell me all the time that they will go from Westchester down to Roy Tweedy's because they trust Roy because he's been there for so long and the meats are so good. You know, and people do travel down just to go to that place. So we have all these people that we trust. We want to be that trustworthy person too. And one of the questions I ask is, do you walk into your financial advisor and ask for a discount? When was the last time a financial advisor gave us a discount? In fact, we wonder why they're getting the money that they're getting because we haven't heard from them for 6 months, right? So I use that as an analogy. It's a great thing to use analogies as you're talking. If something comes to mind while you're talking to the seller that you can relate them to, something that happened to you or something that's universal, sometimes that is better than the 10-minute dissertation you can give them, is to give them an analogy. And I think that that's an important, again, trust issue. So I read this somewhere, I don't have the list, I apologize, but I read this somewhere, that there are over 230 possible steps that take place during a successful real estate transaction. Now, it would be interesting, if you had the time, to sit every night and say, what did I do for this listing? And write it down, night after night after night, and don't, recopy it or anything. And find out how many you have, and change that number if you need to. But, that makes you more trustworthy, and it also makes them feel better about you and about paying the commission. And so you don't have to have that. All right, it says here, you want someone who knows those steps, has been there before. I'm always saying that if in a perfect world, every one of the realtors who list houses and sell houses should have had the experience of listing their home or selling their home or buying a home, because we don't know, we don't know what people go through. So many of you have a home now that you like, whether it's before, just recently, or whatever. And it's nice because you've been through the process and you know the glitches, the bumps in the road. Know the actions that ensure that you have a positive experience. This is what you're telling the sellers. I will negotiate on your behalf. There is a wonderful course that Pennsylvania Association of Realtors offers on negotiations, and it's comes up all the time at the board, and it is amazing. It's better than the one on Shift is really good. The one in Ignite is really good. But this one is just hardcore about negotiating and putting the words into your mouth. So if you ever get a chance to take that, I tell them that I'm their buffer. I'm the buffer. I'm trying to keep you away from all the drama. so that's what I do. Let's see. I know how to read and translate for you. I will not let a buyer sign an agreement of sale. Ever. And I don't care what the deadline is or whatever, I make it work until I've gone over the agreement with them, even if it's on the phone before they DocuSign. I see a lot of that going on where an agent calls me and he says, I'm just typing up the agreement now, and 10 minutes later I have it in my hand, dot looped or DocuSigned by the buyer, and I'm going, well, how did that happen? And he tells me it's their first time. And he didn't take the time to say, here's what you're signing. This is a really important 14 pages, plus, right? And the fact that they're not signing, it just makes me crazy. Okay. But basically what you're saying is I'm here to keep the deal going. And then the big question is this, and sometimes it's a little hard to ask, but when you do that two-part listing, it's a little bit easier. For those of you who don't know, I bring my booklet with all my stuff in it, which I'll go over a little bit later. And then I walk through the house and I'd say to them, you play realtor, I play buyer. You're going to tell me all the things you know about your house. And they love to, if they've done a lot of things and did their kitchen and the husband's handy, they love to tell me about that. And I write. And then if they make a big deal about the kitchen 4 times, I give it a big underlying, because when I come back, I'm going to be telling them how terrific the kitchen is, and the buyers are going to love it as well. So that first appointment, again, is building that rapport, building that trust, getting the information so that when I come back, it's easier for me to say, what do you trust me to do for you? What do you trust me to do for you? If you just walked in 10 minutes ago, they can't tell you that. But they've already met you now. You've been there for maybe an hour before, and you've told them how you're deserving of their trust. So now you say, what do you trust me to do for you? And let them go at it. Another way to go is, and this works as well, is on that first one, after you've talked, after you see their eyes, and after you see them, like Becca here is nodding. That's the greatest thing for a speaker, is to have somebody nodding, because they go, okay, they're getting it. Yeah. If you feel that, you can always say to them before you leave, all right, before I go, I have some homework for you. Besides looking over the seller's disclosure and the lead-based paint, besides looking at the copy of the listing agreement that I've left with you, a blank one, with all those things, besides all that, I want you, before I come back, to make a list of the things that you're going to trust me with, that you expect you can trust me with. And then you see that list when you come back, and you can parse it down. And that's their list, all right? So it can work either way. And so normally what they'll say is to navigate the process, to negotiate on their behalf, to price the house competitively, and if they say that, that's great. And they say, okay, that's what we're going to do. If they say, well, our house is the best on the block, and all the neighbors tell me that we're going to get $20,000 more than everything else. And, during post-COVID, maybe so, but, we are shifting now, and we need to go back, and many of you have not done business in a market like we're about to enter. So I'm not scaring you here, but, it's back to the old days, and this won't happen. One lady told me she wanted me to have a heart of a teacher and not a salesperson. She didn't want me to be a used car salesman. She wanted a teacher. To tell her the truth, and not just what I want them to hear, and to teach them how to prepare for a home inspection, which doesn't have to be on that second appointment, but make sure you make a note of that. So what I tell my people is, I want to be the person you trust, and I want you to be a raving fan. Have you ever heard that term? I want you to be a raving fan. And I said, I want you to be, when we're finished here, I want you to go out and tell the world, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're going to put it, Google, what a great experience you had, and pass the word along. If you find a brand new recipe, you want to pass it along. If you find a person you can trust, you want to pass that along. How many times have you seen, I need a doctor, I need an obstetrician? My obstetrician, gynecologist, just retired, and they never even sent me a letter. And I went to set up an appointment, and they said, oh, he's not doing that anymore. I said, what? Huh?
That's not nice.
No, it's not nice. He's been for 25 years. It's like, what? They want to know about how I learn what I learn through my blogs, through the videos that I watch, through the periodicals and the newsletters, and when I get online. And they want to know a little bit about the use and occupancy information. So before I go, that first time, I usually will bring with me, what that township requires. Now, it's on the board website that you can go, or SRA actually it is, Suburban Realtors Alliance, and it's on there. You can get it by school district, okay? And you can bring that, but it's always a good idea too to look it up on the township website in case they added something that SRA doesn't have yet. So it's like a twofold thing that you should do. Because sometimes they add things on and it just didn't make it over to the other side yet, right? Okay. So the next part of that second part, because I pretty much covered the first part the last time, and if you have questions and you have learned your last time, we can always have a one-to-one. But that part of that second time is when you come in, to be prepared, not only with your comparables or market analysis. You don't say the word comps, they don't know what that means for the most part. If they're an older person, they don't know the word comps. They don't want to do, what do they call it when there's letters instead of, CRM or acronyms. Thank you. I used to be a teacher. Acronyms. You say, I'm going to do a CNA for you. what? So spell it out, tell them what you're going to do in layman's terms. Remember, if they've only been in the house 3 years, then they probably know. If this is their fourth house, maybe they probably know. But if not, that's what you should do. And so you want to be able to come with the comparables that are most likely to be the ones that will be good for them to use. Now, the appraisers can go back 6 months, right? And my whole career I've been doing that. Now I'm really going back 3 months. Even though the appraiser can use 6, it's very different now than it was 6 months ago. I mean, in February, March, January, things were flying, and for $90,000 over the asking price, it's not that way anymore. So I like to take the solds, like since like maybe May, and then I use the pendings, which I tell them, we're not going to deal with the pending because we don't know what it's sold for, right? But at least we know that somebody came in and made an offer on this house. And so if you're at this price, you too will get an offer because you're just as nice or maybe even nicer than that house, right? I was really lucky that I have a listing that I'm taking, and I've been working on it for about a year and a half now. And finally we're ready, and there's some last minute things getting done, and I did a market analysis, and it's not quite as good as they thought back in February, March, but it's still okay. But one popped up, it sold in a day and a half, literally around the corner. And it's almost exactly the same, except mine's more Tudorish and that one was more colonial looking, but the same layout, all that kind of stuff. Both had new kitchens, and I was, thank you, God. Because sometimes you go into developments or into properties, and there's nothing exactly like that house, and you kind of have to rob from Peter to pay Paul. But for this one, I was lucky, and I kept hammering at them because they wanted more. Well, we put so much into it, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, but that has a this and that has a that. So they finally understood, but we didn't hinge just on that, but it got listed and sold in a day and a half, and it's really good. And the agent who listed is somebody that I used to work with when I was at Century 21, and then she went to Long and Foster when they bought them out. And I have no compunction in calling her today, because we're going to list towards the end of the week, and say, give me the agents that sent you offers that you didn't take. I want to know them to call them, or maybe you call them for me, and tell them that there's a new listing coming up and they should get their buyers over there, because that there's already people that are looking in that neighborhood in that price range, and why not, And even if you don't know the agent, it's still okay. All they can say is no, right? But she's got some lists, I'm sure. All right, so statistics. You have to wow them with statistics. And we've got a lot of them. We have the lore report from here with our statistics. And if you're brand new and you don't have statistics, use the office ones. Go to one of the other agents and say, can I use, the things that there's so much out there as far as statistics is concerned. And the one thing that I love, 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 love is the, let me go grab it. I'm sorry. The thing that comes from
Where though? I don't know where to look. It's horrible. That's a good report.
Thank you.
We're talking about the
There's
law
always a
report.
slide. There's
It's
always a slide.
graph that shows
At
us.
the key meeting, there's always a
Yes.
slide for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
and
do
you
you
can
get
take,
that?
you can take
though?
pictures
There's
of
a
that.
slide.
Yes. Sorry. This is the local market insight. Are you using it? All right. It's as easy as a click. Okay. You go into the board, Tri-County, and you set up. They have them for Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County, and for all of the school districts. Right? And this is fabulous. They come out around the 15th of the month. Last month they didn't come out till the 17th. I was dying to slow death because I wanted the current statistics. I'm going to pass this around. There's one from Delaware County, and then there's Upper Darby. And this is hot off the presses. Kathy just printed them off, because yesterday was the 15th. Here's Interborough. All right, and what it is this is Interborough. it starts out with what's happening in the school district in general. Lots of reds and blues, okay? The reds are, things are going down, the blues are still up, okay? It says in Interboro, the median sold price of all the houses in Interboro School District is $255,500. That's all the houses. And then it breaks it down into attached homes and detached homes. So if you've got a row or a twin, it's the third page, and the other one, or the detached is the third page, row and twin is the fourth page. So just as an example here, in Interboro, June of 2022, all right, we don't have July, even though we're in August, because that'll come next month. They have to take time to go over them. All right, so new listings, there's 23 new listings, and that's up 76.9% from May of 22. All right, so that's a big deal. That there's
school
76
district, right?
more homes for sale that are competition for our sellers. Not a good thing, so, you know, in many ways, but, you know, that's good for the buyers. If you've got buyers, you can use this for them too, you know. And the good part is that the new listings, the pending listings from May of 22 are up 38.5%. And from June of 21, year over year, they're up 157.1%. So I'm going to just throw these around to you, pick and choose. Some of them are, like, I got a whole different, to make sure I have all the Junes. There should be one for everybody here. And Delco. And then, you know, when you're finished, you can just leave them. Okay. Want to throw them in here? That'd be great, thanks. So that's a big thing. That's statistics, and you can't get better than that. Because a lot of times when you look on Bright, they do a lot of statistics, right? Showing Time does statistics, but they're like Bright's doing it for the whole Bright area, and they break it down into the Philadelphia area and the Washington area and Baltimore area. But these are right here, right now, and they are perfect to bring. To
Now, where are they from again? Did you
They're
say?
from the Tri-County
Tri-County?
Association, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep. And so wow them with the statistics. There's one that I just came up with not too long ago. How long people stay in their home. All right, in 2000 it was 6 years. In 2008 it was 9 to 10 years. In 2010 it was 13 years. And in 2020 it's like 3. 3 years, yeah,
Wow.
because they got in and they're settled and they go, well, wait a minute, why don't we just
They
move?
made so much money.
Yeah, they put a new kitchen in and said, hey, we had this house in California. And he said, what are you here for? And he said, to go over the offer that I got. He said, no, not looking like that. Go home and change and come back and we'll talk. Now that was the extreme, you know, but we don't have to be all gussied up, but we want to do a little bit better than cargo pants and
I
shirts.
think
And
everybody should have one outfit
Yeah.
that they, you know, you don't have to go out and buy a wardrobe of
That's right.
suits and pantsuits and,
yeah,
but one thing
a
that you
staple.
wear.
Well, two, because you're doing 2 appointments, if you do 2
If you
appointments.
you know what I mean? The real estate has gotten extremely casual, and Maureen and I go way back. I remember in the 80s, we used to wear what they called power suits. I mean, we were dressed to the
Yeah.
nines.
Well, I wore the gold jacket for
High
Century
heels.
21.
We show
Yeah.
houses
That saved me a lot of
in
money.
spike heels. Remember that?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, God.
So, but I mean,
Falling
it's
around
different
in
now.
these
I get
properties,
that. I get
dressed
that.
to kill, but still, I think you can
Calm
take the
down.
casual.
Yeah.
And we used to have a dress code in this office. That seems like that's going down the drain
Yeah.
too. But you know,
I had a dress code when I was in college at Westchester. We weren't allowed to wear anything but pantsuits, or you know, pants with a jacket, or dresses, or skirts, but no jeans or this or that. But we had 10 o'clock curfew.
you never know what's going to
It
get you.
was
that.
crazy,
The
yeah.
listing, you never know what's going to get you the listing.
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
they
Especially if
turn
you're
you
dealing
down
with the
because
older
they don't like
population.
what you had on.
Yes,
I
correct.
mean, that's how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
So I just
And
say
you
to
don't have
everybody,
to be
you have
all
one
bespectacled.
out. And guys don't have to wear suits and ties are out. But
Not
look
at
at
all.
Gary Keller. He wears a black T-shirt
Yep.
and a sport coat.
Yep.
And it's sharp.
It
you
is.
know?
It
Or
is.
at least a shirt with that says
Mhm.
Keller Williams Real Estate
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
it. You know.
Like Straight No Chaser, do you know who they are? They're a really cool group that does a cappella, and they doing a cappella in college. And then 10 years later, they went back to the alma mater for their 10-year thing, and they got up on stage and sang, and somebody took a video and it became viral, and now it's 15 years later and they're married with kids and all. And it's one of those things like Blue Man Group, the franchise is Straight and Chaser. Most of them are still the originals, but they always wear, like khakis and a jacket. Later on they'll take the jacket off and roll up their sleeves or whatever, but that's what they all look alike, and they look professional. But I've been at settlements where the guy runs in and I don't see it too much as with the girls, but and I go, I think they're the buyer. I'll go, I said, oh, you're the buyer. They said, no, I'm the, okay. All right, Warren Buffett, you know who he is, right? Okay. He says, and he's like the third, I thought he was first, but my granddaughter corrected me. She's 17, she corrected me. She said, no, she's third. I like thinking big. I always have. To me, it's very simple. If you're going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big. And he says also, when you want to succeed as badly as you want to breathe, you'll become successful. So I started with a quote, and I'm leaving you with a quote. Right? Any specific questions that you might have for me at the end here? No?